Hi guys, welcome back to the Free Thinker Cast. I'm your host Hannah. And guys, it was only last week that the Labour government lowered the voting age to 16 years old in this country because young people are the future. They ought to have a say in politics. They ought to get stuck in. That is unless, of course, you are the 19-year-old George Finch. He has been newly elected as the leader of the Warwickshire County Council. He is a Reform UK candidate. He is in opposition to a lot of Labour policies out there, primarily open borders, mass migration, illegal immigration. And they're not too happy about this. The liberal media, who was praising young people for their genius and their brilliance and their youthful optimism regarding the future and the climate in British politics, has now switched on you guys. And I want teenagers to see this. Well, you guys see, you already see it. I just think someone needs to kind of vocalize the hypocrisy. Because one minute they were kissing you and praising you. You're the next future generation. But as soon as it is someone that doesn't support the prevailing narratives on migration and mass migration and asylum seekers, immediately they're no longer competent enough. They're inexperienced. They don't know what they're doing. Young people, listen. They did not lower the vote. The Labour government, 5 seconds ago, they said you were amazing. They did not lower the voting age to 16 because they want you to exercise your political autonomy and get engaged in political discourse. They lowered the voting age to 16 years old because they knew that it would skew election results in their favour politically. They assumed that you would vote for them. They assumed that you would be on their side. I think that's patronising. I actually don't think that's empowering for young people if you know that you statistically have an advantage with that age demographic, because young people are more open to liberal policies. They're more susceptible to the idea of political utopianism. Everyone can come in the country, free healthcare, free food, free everything. Because if you told me that when I was 16, having never worked a job before, I would have been like, yeah, why not? I didn't have a concept of the economy. So it's not that you're immature. It's not that you're irresponsible. It's that you're detached from the decisions that you would be voting in favour of. And that is why a lot of people were opposed to 16-year-olds voting. You do not directly engage in the UK economy. And it's nothing patronising. I don't think 16-year-olds are stupid. And actually, I'm feeling quite optimistic about the fact that the voting demographic has opened up to a younger age group, because I think it will backfire for Labour. People aren't stupid. You've got young people like George Finch that can see right through the insanity of open borders. And I'm really looking forward to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Give the video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a thought. And share with your friends. So, Mr George Finch is now going to be the leader of his local county council, the Warwickshire County Council. He's going to be overseeing £1.5 billion of assets and £500 million of annual revenue. It's a lot for a teenager, you might think. He's young, he's inexperienced. What is he doing? Well, I'd only like to point you to nearly all of the members of the Houses of Commons, particularly in the Labour Party, like Rachel Reeves, okay? And I'll use her as an example because she's recently come under fire for her lack of display of emotional stability, right? It was only 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago actually, that she was crying in the Houses of Commons as people were opposing her welfare reforms, people were opposing her policies on government spending, and she was crying here. She was facing losing a job, she was facing losing her position, and how did she display strength and courage in the time during a cost of living crisis or a cost of living increase where people need to see the strength of our leaders the most? What does she do? She's crying, a little tear running down her face, okay? She's crying. And do you have faith in her leadership? She's managing the entirety of the country's budget, let alone the little £500 million that Mr George Finch will be overseeing in Warwickshire. The entire nation's money, and she's crying. What is this nonsense? Keir Starmer, similarly, needed a Supreme Court ruling in order to accept and define what a woman was. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, the Supreme Court needed to inform the Prime Minister of the UK that the definition of a woman was a biological female. That's what it stated under the Equality Act, because there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of confusion. And had it not been for the Supreme Court, what would have Keir Starmer done? What would he have done? What if he just had to come up with the definition himself? Imagine what he would have come up with, and imagine which category he would include in that definition. He would most certainly include men, because he is not a strong leader, and he absolutely succumbs to the demands of tentative cultural norms and cultural definitions of anything, gender, race, whatever. Whatever the culture is pushing, he will accept, because that's liberalism for you. It's always changing. Nothing really that new, but it's always changing. And whoever they elect has to just go with the flow. Go with the flow. And right, Labour also continues to be a champion for women's rights and gender equality. And yet Keir Starmer managed to spend £7 billion roughly of the taxpayers' money on importing 24,000 Afghans to the UK. According to the Centre for Migration Control, Afghans are the #1 perpetrators of sexual assault. Oh, but the adults are in charge. We've got Rachel Reeves, we've got Keir Starmer, Deputy Angela Rayner. We've got all of these wonderful adults in charge because they know what they're doing, and we should trust the adults in the same way we should trust the science, and absolutely we should not be. Because the people who claim to have authority for whatever characteristic they had, they're a scientist, they're an adult, they're a grown-up, are not trustworthy. They're not your parents that typically have your best interest at heart. They are the government. They hate you. So, enough with the patronising commentary on Mr George Finch. I actually think he's an exceptional young man. And he actually reminds me of someone I know who at the similar age got into politics. When you actually meet people that you're so detached from, because you might be a grown-up, you might be in the working world, all of your friends are in their 20s and their 30s. You look back at when you were 19 and you're like, oh, I was kind of starved when I was that age. But when you actually meet people who are that age and are that level-headed and are that sensible, they will impress you. They will blow you out the water. You'll be like, what the heck? What was that when I was your age? I was not doing that. You'll say, are your parents Christian? Is that what it is? Because they are genuinely impressive people who are that young, and they are frustrated at the state of the British economy and politics in the UK, and they want to get involved. I wanted to show you a clip of a video that is circulating, and this is when he was 18 years old. And it's kind of resurfaced. He's a really good guy. Let's take a look at what he's had to say.
Hello, my name is George Finch. I'm 18 years old. I'm from a small town in the Midlands called Nuneaton.
See that? Two-piece suit. You know, hair's not falling over his face. Two-piece suit. Sensible. He looks smart. He's not wearing a Nike tracksuit. He's got, like, his trousers aren't sagging. He doesn't need, like, a bloody belt. He's not no, he does not in any ways align with the stereotypical portrayal of teenagers. He's a sensible young man. And I actually think he should be an inspiration for the younger generation who think that maybe they might not be able to make an impact in politics because they are too young.
After 3 months of being a member of the Conservative Party, I saw no traction in the way to stop this illegal immigration. So I explored. I went to see Lee Anderson, who came down to Nuneaton to do an event for the local candidate. Later, I decided to leave the Conservative Party and join Reform UK. I have written a series of articles for the New Reformers called How Many Deaths Does It Take Until the Government Are Held to Account? This is about the public scandals that have happened in the last 30 years from the Labour and Conservatives.
Well spoken, composed. It's like you can tell he doesn't drink contraceptive laced tap water that depletes your testosterone levels. I don't know if you know, but there's estrogen in tap water that is making men look really feminine. This is true. This is water filter systems. They don't remove this. Do not drink that. Get a filter. Do something at least. Okay, it's depleting your testosterone. If I asked him, like, what type of water do you drink? He wouldn't look at me side-eye. He wouldn't be confused by that question. He'd be like, absolutely not from the tap. I trust this man's judgment. And it also says in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, do not let anyone despise you because of your youth. Instead, set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in faith, in love, and in purity. This is essential. I even have it written on my youth t-shirt that I volunteer with the youth in my church. It is important that you don't forget that. You are capable of making a difference regardless of your age. And I think the Labour Party is going to realise how much lowering the voting age to 16 is going to backfire, because now their incompetence is going to be genuinely critically assessed by an even larger demographic. This is a big mistake. This is a huge mistake because people like George Finch exist and they are afraid of him. and what he represents in terms of younger voters waking up to the insanity in British politics. It's just like, I don't even think people realise the way that God works, because do you know how old David was when he slayed Goliath? Historians estimate that he was anywhere between 13 and 20 years old. He was a teenager. David was a teenager when he slayed this enormous giant with a slingshot. People undermined him because he was so young. Who is this guy? But then David didn't even care for the eyes of men, what they were thinking, what their perceptions were of him. Instead, well, they were thinking, who is this guy? David was thinking, who is this guy? Who's this uncircumcised Philistine who was Goliath? Do you also know the age that Jesus was when he first started teaching? While he officially commenced his ministry at the age of 30 years old, the first time he actually started teaching to crowds of people was 12. So, very young. Very able. It's because of the tap water, okay? People are drinking the tap water. It's got estrogen in it. It's got contraceptives in it. So a lot of the men are weak. But I'm telling you, Mr. George Finch doesn't drink the tap water. Even as a bar mitzvah in Jewish tradition, from his age as young as 12 or 13, they are perceived as a man. They have adult responsibilities from the age of 12, 13. It's similar in the Irish traveller community. You are seen as a man from that age. And I think having those responsibilities will inspire maturity. It does. It produces people like George Finch, and he raised up to having more responsibility. He put himself forward. While everyone else was drinking tap water, Mr. George Finch was not. I think we can actually be inspired by Jewish culture and the bar mitzvah tradition, because I feel like in this generation, in this modern day culture, people remain sheltered and they become infantilized as a result of it. You're a grown-up adult, but you act like a baby. I know too many people who are far older than Mr. George Finch and act like children. Yeah, so people just stay in school for way too long and they never have to mature. He's not stupid and he knows what he's doing, and the adults barely know what they're doing either. So let's just give this guy a chance, okay? Also, he did just win the vote. So ironically, you're actually undermining adults, not George. You're actually undermining the adults who elected him in, who were way over the age of 30, 40 years old, who said that who just saw that he was the best fit for this job. And it was something like 33 votes. The next person got like 19 votes. He won by a significant margin. People knew and saw that he was the best fit for this role, and that's why they selected him for it. So yes, ironically, you are actually undermining not George Finch because of his age, but you're actually undermining the far older people who elected him into that position, who are far more experienced than he was, and yet they have made the judgment that he was fit for this position. So he definitely has to be careful going forwards, because people are looking for every reason to get rid of him. But I think that he is a beacon of hope for the younger generation and is an inspiration to myself. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.